Hi, I'm Brian LaRosa with LaRosa's Trains on Facebook, and today I'm going to review and run the beautiful new RailKing Imperial line Norfolk Southern Heritage SD70ACe diesel from MTH. I'm going to start off with a little history of the SD70 series. The SD70ACe is a modern diesel engine built by EMD and was designed to meet the standards of the United States Environmental Protection Agency, in which it's meant to release much fewer greenhouse gas emissions than its predecessor, the SD70MAC. Now, if you're not familiar with the SD70 series, SD means special duty, and it designates six-wheel trucks or 6 axles of the entire locomotive. The 70 just refers to the body style of the engine. AC refers to the traction motors powered by alternating current, and the lowercase e just basically indicates that this is a successor to the SD70MAC. So therefore this is designated as an SD70ACe. Now I personally prefer to call it the SD70ACe, but I don't care however you say it. You can say it however you want. It doesn't really matter to me. As many of you already know, 2012 was Norfolk Southern's 30th anniversary, and to celebrate it, Norfolk Southern ordered 10 EMD SD70ACe diesels and 10 GE ES44AC diesels, so that 19 of them were painted in Norfolk Southern's 19 original predecessor railroads, while one ES44 diesel was painted in this unique red paint scheme like you see in my engine. Now, here are the following road names that were painted in these heritage diesels. MTH first offered this engine in their 2012 Volume 2 catalog. Now, from the RailKing Imperial line, they offer this one and 10 other SD70 diesels. And from the Premier line, they offer all 20 SD70 and ES44 diesels up until the 2013 Volume 2 catalog. However, also in the 2013 Volume 2 catalog, MTH began offering the first 5 newly tooled RailKing Imperial ES44 diesels. Of the 5 of them were part of the Heritage series, Pennsylvania and Southern. And finally, in the 2014 Volume 1 catalog, MTH continued to offer 8 of the rest of the Heritage ES44 diesels, plus some additional ES44 diesels such as Canadian Pacific and CSX. About a couple weeks ago, I went to this one train store named Engine House Hobbies, which is located in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and I asked the train store owner about this engine, but obviously they didn't have the engine here, so we had to order it from another train store. But the other thing he said about this engine is that MTH only makes a limited number of heritage diesels, and I think that's because the Heritage series is so special that it's considered to be a limited edition series. But anyway, he checked over the MTH website and chose this one train store located in Ohio. Then he called over another train store and asked them if they still have this engine. And I could even hear that conversation between them. And now I finally heard that they did still have that engine. So I was very lucky that we finally found the engine. So about a week later, we went back to the train store, picked up the engine that was waiting for me, and then took it home. So anyway, let's go over some of the basic features on this engine. The construction of the engine consists of this nicely detailed ABS plastic body, all metal wheels, axles and gears, die-cast truck sides, pilots, and the fuel tank, and the metal chassis. The engine measures about 17 inches in length, and the minimum curve needed to run this engine is 0.31. Functionally, this engine has 2 flywheel motors and is equipped with speed control and MTH's Protoson 3 with digital command system featuring freight yard proto effects. Actually, this is not only my first RailKing diesel, but also my first MTH engine equipped with Protoson 3, because in fact I have a couple other MTH engines equipped with the original Protoson 2 system. Most of the differences between PS2 and 3 can be located inside the engine, but PS3 is guaranteed to have the same operation, the same digital functionality, and even the same sounds as what PS2 used to have. The only small difference you would probably see are the lighting effects, because most PS2 engines originally had incandescent lighting, but most of the PS3 engines nowadays have LED lighting. Otherwise, I'm very happy that this engine now has the same operation in terms of functionality, so there's no difference between them in terms of functionality. This engine is designed to run on any layout controlled by DCS, but it can also be controlled by the classic digital command control, or DCC, or it can be operated conventionally with just a transformer. Now, if any of you have seen some of my YouTube videos before, you probably remember that I have this DCS remote commander set, which is a simplified version of the regular DCS system, but unfortunately when I tested the engine out on my layout, it did not respond to any of the buttons I pressed on the remote. All it did was that it started up automatically when the power was on, and I think it was because the default setting was in conventional mode. So I took this engine back to the train store with my commander set, so it'll be easier to illustrate the problem. And I finally found out that the real problem were the switches located inside the radiator housing, which I'll get back to in just a few minutes. So the guy at the train store fixed the switch inside the engine, and once it was fixed, I tested the engine again with the remote, and it finally behaved well, really well. So, and even the sound system behaves really well, like the passenger freight announcement sound, or PFA, and some other auxiliary sounds in this engine. So it finally behaved well. So anyway, let's continue going over the basic features on this engine. I'm going to start at the front of the engine. Up on the top, you got constant voltage headlights at the top. You got operating ditch lights. You got the operating coupler that you can fire from any remote you have. And then lastly, there's a separately packaged snowplow, which means I had to install that myself once it's taken out of the box. All around the engine you got metal handrails, and on the top you got operating smokestack with the operating smoke unit. Now, if any of you have seen some of my YouTube videos before, I personally like running the engine with the smoke unit turned off, because I don't want the smoke to spread the odors around the basement. So anyway, let's continue on. Moving towards the rear of the engine, you got a separately applied horn, and then the radiator housing opens up to reveal the engine controls here. Here are 3 controls here. There's one switch for the DCS and DCC functionality. So if you're running the engine with DCS, you just switch it to DCS. Or if you're running this with DCC, you just switch it to DCC. Now, a couple other controls are for the smoke control and the volume control. and that's really convenient to access the controls that comes from this radiator housing, as opposed to turning the engine over just to access the controls. Now, when I first opened the radiator housing, it was very hard to open, so we lubricated a little bit with some liquid soap, not oil, because oil can attack the ABS plastic. And so with the help of the liquid soap, it easily opens and closes here so that I can get access to the controls in the engine. Here's a quick look on the rear of the engine. You got another constant voltage headlight on the back, which turns on when the engine's in reverse. And then you got another operating coupler that you can fire from any remote you have. The paint job on this engine is really beautiful with the nice Norfolk Southern red paint scheme. Now, one little unique thing about it is that this was supposed to be on the ES44 diesel, but in the Premier line section of the 2012 Volume 2 catalog, it was shown on a Premier SD70 sample image, and MTH already changed that after the catalog was released. Now, it's not really a big problem. I'm just pointing out one tiny minor issue. But because the SD70ACe is a very popular O-gauge engine, MTH decided to offer that in this paint scheme. And because it's a RailKing diesel, it's not meant to be as super prototypical as other Premier line O-scale diesels. So I think it's really fun. So that's one of the reasons I like this engine. A couple other items I have with my engine are the 40-foot high-cube boxcar, and behind it is the bay window caboose. And I noticed that MTH offered some nice heritage freight cars to match up with the diesels that they've been putting out. Now, these items were first offered in the 2013 Volume 1 catalog. However, MTH offered another copy of these cars in the 2014 Volume 1 catalog to match up with the new RailKing ES44 diesel in the same matching paint scheme. Now, the same story happened, I told you earlier, happens to these freight cars. These were actually found from the same train store as the engine, and so just like the engine, I was very lucky to have them as well. Now, the caboose trailing behind it is sort of like the happy ending of a novel, and so I couldn't resist buying them. These are so beautiful. One last thing before I start this engine up is the packaging. Now, some of the heritage products were shipped in these beautiful, colorful boxes that have the Norfolk Southern logo, but my engine and the cars only came in the ordinary RailKing boxes, and I'm guessing that these special packaging with the Norfolk Southern logos only shipped the Premier line products, but it's not a really big deal. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to start the engine up, let you hear some of the sounds, and then I'll run around my layout. Okay, here's the horn. And here's the bell.
Be cleared up to go whenever you're
Okay, so let's hear some of the random sounds in the engine. I think that's about all the sounds that I can play in this engine. Okay, so let's start running this engine. Now before I run it, I'm gonna use the PFA sequence, means passenger freight announcements, and when the PFA is done, then I'll start running the engine around my layout. Okay, that about wraps up this review. This is a really beautiful diesel engine. If you're interested in purchasing any of the Heritage SD70 diesels, the retail price for them is about $320. If you're interested in any of the Heritage Freight, the boxcar retails for about $55, and the caboose retails for about $65. Now, one thing you have to be a little aware of is that, as I said earlier, MTH only makes a few of the Heritage products, including the Heritage Freight. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're interested in any of them, you may want to buy them as soon as possible while supplies last. So anyway, I'm Brian LaRosa, and I'll see you next time.